you're playing a 4x mission, you actually have fire, your appropriate element with this weapon, and you have some great trap tunnels, then yeah, I can see this weapon performing quite well. But outside of that, not exactly. Yo, what is up? demonjoefrance here. Welcome back once again to another video. How you guys doing, guys? Today we're going to be doing a weapon review for the Coco 45, a little bit of a critical deep dive on this weapon, comparing it with others, talking about stats and all that kind of stuff. If you guys aren't interested in the statistics and the nitty-gritty, then skip over to that time, whichever side on the screen, and you guys can go ahead and get to the gameplay. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into this review. Now, I want to go ahead and head on over to my schematics and make something clear really quick. If you guys were on stream, you guys saw this absolute huge freaking failure. This is not the best that the perks can be. As I was maxing out my perks on stream, I accidentally made the durability, or whatever perk this was, into durability, when in reality it should be a reload speed or it should be a mag size. So I facepalmed pretty hard after that, so keep in mind that this should be a mag size or reload speed. I will refuse to be critical of the magazine size or the reload speed in this review because I know it can be better, so I'm not even going to mention it. Durability was it was just a dummy move from me. It's the second time I've ever done it. I don't know, PCs are hard to use. So let's go ahead and hop into this. The Coco 45, a weapon that looks very unique and has come with the new event shop update or whatever. It is in the weekly store. I don't think it's in the event store, which is quite odd as it is a winter weapon. It is in the weekly store for 1680 gold. Now, this weapon in particular, I'll go and tell you guys the rolls I went with crit damage, what's supposed to be mag size, fire because it's what came with it, crit damage, crit rating, and causes affliction for 6 seconds. Now, I want to compare this weapon to the Whisper 45, obviously, because a lot of people are curious how it stacks up against the Whisper, and I will be comparing it to the Basilisk, because the Basilisk is a direct competitor with the Whisper and can very well be the best pistol in the game if some proper testing is done to truly figure that out. So first up, we're going to start off with comparing this to the Whisper 45. Now, don't worry, the Coco 45 is maxed out perks, of course. I'm going to be comparing it to a Whisper 45 with maxed out perks, and in this one in particular, enable for you to gain double crit damage, you have to go with no crit rating, which if you're using a ranger and a field agent Rio, as your support, then should be no problem as far as crit chance is concerned. So yes, we are comparing a double crit damage Coco to a double crit damage Whisper. So let's go and hop into it. So if we take a look at the Coco 45 and look at the damage, we have about 11.9k. If we look at the Whisper, we have 12.5k. If we look at the Coco, we have 17.8k headshot damage. If we look at the Whisper, we have 25k headshot damage. If we look at the Coco, we have 57.5% crit chance. If we look at the Whisper, we have 51.5% crit chance, which honestly isn't too big of a deal. If we look at the crit damage, both are 415%. If we take a look at the fire rate, the Whisper 45 has 4.95, nearly 5 fire rate, and the Coco has 0.5 less. The magazine size, I'm not really going to compare. If we look at the range, the Coco 45 has quite the amount of range at 5,000. The Whisper 45 has 3,500. And if we look at the impact, the Whisper 45 has 859 and the Coco has 817. Now, one thing that should be noted here whenever you are comparing the Coco to the Whisper 45, because they are very similar. They're both pistols with silencers on them, even though one of them is very Christmas themed, one of them is very covert ops themed. If we take a look at the Whisper 45, we can see that, well, this weapon right here is obviously a hit scan weapon, suppressed handgun that greatly reduces the distance enemies here and blah blah blah, hard hitting and softer shooting than the standard semi-auto, and yeah, so you basically make it very apparent that this is a very hard hitting hit scan weapon, right? And hit scan basically means you aim, you shoot, and you instantly hit that target. See, the difference with the Coco 45 is that this weapon is a silenced pistol with projectiles that bounce off walls and pass through enemies. Projectiles, which means that these are going to slowly go through the air, very similarly to the Ghost pistol. Now, one good thing about the Coco 45 is that it does not need to worry about the Ghost pistol. I'm going to go back to my schematics really quick, and even though it's not a 130, if we take a look at this Ghost pistol, it's just not good. Okay, if you guys ever did watch my review on it, it's just not that good of a weapon. You really don't get the damage that you need with this weapon. And I also don't believe that you can go with a double crit damage even if you wanted to on the Ghost Pistol, which means that your overall damage is a lot lower by near 200%, or about at least 150% around that area. So your Ghost Pistol damage is really bad. The good thing about the Coco 45 is that the damage that you're actually going to be putting out is actually quite good for a projectile based weapon. Like I was just saying, that whenever you are comparing these weapons, keep in mind that this is not a hit scan weapon. This weapon is going to pass through enemies, it's going to bounce off walls. It is not meant for single target damage. It is meant for multi-target damage. Now, a lot of people like the Coco 45, at least in terms of first impressions, because normally a ranger is going to need the ability to kill multiple enemies whenever it comes to that kind of stuff. Because if you're playing a soldier, you got assault rifles, you can kill multiple enemies easily. With a ranger, you really need to tap your targets and make sure that you kill them all. So the Coco 45 is a perfect substitute for wave clear, right? Well, in my opinion personally, obviously that's what opinion means. Anyways, in my opinion, I believe that the Founders Revolt will do a better job than the Coco 45. Unfortunately, I don't have a Founders Revolt to compare because my account got hacked a while ago and I lost all my weapons, but the Founders Revolt does not need to be as situational as the Coco 45. The Coco 45 is a very fun and meme-tastic weapon, and we're definitely going to showcase how good this weapon is, but whenever it comes to the Founders Revolt, you don't need to line up your shots whenever it comes to actually getting some wave clear. With the Coco 45, they have to be very specifically lined up. With the Founders Revolt, you can just shoot one target and it's going to spread to a bunch of other targets very easily and do a lot of damage. I just think that all of this should be noted for this weapon, so that you should know that if you do have a Founders Revolt, that might just be better than the Coco 45. But if you don't have the Founders Revolt, the Coco 45 is the perfect option for you. Definitely a really good weapon. It is not as good as single target as it is with multi-target, but even though it is situational, it is a very fun gun and will actually pump out a good amount of damage. So before we do get into the actual missions, the hero loadout is Ranger Beetlejuice, Field Agent Rio, and I'm going to go with Carbide because this weapon doesn't really promote single target damage. I'm not going to focus single target damage. I'm going to be using kind of a more support Ranger and kind of get some extra DPS out there, since I'm also using the Coco 45. So without further ado, we are going to head into a fight. The category 3 Storm, which is a lightning storm, only has quicken and smoke screen, so we should do pretty well in this gameplay. Gonna see if I can't get a few trap tunnels set up for this gameplay and see if we can get some decent kind of bouncing off the wall gameplay. And I'm also of course gonna do my normal smasher test, but without further ado, I've been recording for quite a long time. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Alrighty boyo, so here we are in game with the Coco 45. Now, one thing I do want to showcase with this weapon is the projectiles themselves, what the weapon sounds like, what it's going to look like whenever it's bouncing, and obviously the weapon with fire looks quite amazing. It looks like the element actually takes place in your mug, essentially. So whatever element you have is basically what colored mug you are going to have. Now, I want to go ahead and showcase the look and the sound of this weapon. So we're going to aim over here and fire the weapon a few times. Alright, so those are the marshmallows and the hot cocoa that are coming out. I'll shoot a few and then move over to the side really quick. As you guys can see, that is what they look like. Here is how long it takes to get from point A to point B. As you guys can see, that did take a very long time in terms of projectiles. I believe it might be a little bit faster than the Ghost Pistol, but I'm not sure. You can also see that whenever I do fire, this is not server lag. I can showcase with an entirely different weapon. Whenever I do fire, you can see that the marshmallows just kind of like appear in midair, which is kind of a very lackluster feeling whenever you are using this weapon. It's something I'm very critical about it. If I switch over to the judge, you can see that it's pretty instant whenever I decide to fire. Whenever I fire this weapon, it just kind of appears in front of your face with a little chocolatey marshmallow, which maybe that's a bug, maybe that's intended, I'm not entirely sure. I can go ahead and create a box right here out of wood, and I can show you guys what the ricochet looks like, so you guys can get a pretty good idea of what it's like in trap tunnels, which I've heard from a lot of my viewers and some of my friends that it is quite fun. So let's go ahead and fire this a few times. And you can see that these marshmallows fly all over the place. And I do really wish I did have a higher magazine size or a faster reload speed, because filling a room with these freaking things is fun as can be. So that's basically what I've heard a lot of. I can only imagine that if you see a few propanes in there, you might have some like differing opinions on whether or not it's fun, because we all know how propanes are. But we are going to go and find a smasher right quick. We are fighting level 100 enemies with a 130, Coco 45 by the way. And yeah, so we're gonna go find a smasher, and then if we can't, then I'll go ahead and get on with the gameplay, or I might just throw a smasher clip up if I can't find one. But yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and do that, try to get some very good gameplay with this weapon. And yeah, so I will see you guys in just a second. Alrighty, so far I haven't been able to find a smasher as of yet, but we might be able to find one whenever the defense starts. Usually you kind of do get swarmed by smashers. So in the meantime, before we start it, I do want to test it on some basic, more squishy mist monsters. So let's go and try it on this taker right here. Let's kill his little buddy right there. As you guys can see, that took so long to reach him. So I'm going to wait for the taker to maybe rush me. There we go. Try to peg him best I can. That was 2 shots. 3. The affliction might actually kill him. Okay, so I basically just 3-shotted a taker, which is pretty impressive with a pistol that really isn't based on single target damage. That last one wasn't a crit. I probably could have 4-shotted this blaster had one of those shots been a crit. Go and shoot him there. There we go. And okay, so here are 2 more blasters that we can go ahead and experiment on. Like I said, we'll probably get a pretty decent smasher whenever the actual, you know, fight the storm begins. But I kind of want to give you guys an idea of single target damage, how the velocity of these marshmallows work. And yeah, so there we go. That was about a 4-shot blaster. So I believe you can 4 to 3-shot blasters. Maybe if you're lucky, you can maybe 2-shot a taker with a headshot crit, but I am not entirely sure. We shoot at this guy right here. It actually does a very huge chunk of damage whenever it comes to a taker. If that other one was a crit, I'm very positive that we probably could have 2-shotted him if we let the affliction run its entire course. So this weapon is very, very, very impressive whenever it does come to its damage. One thing I don't like about this weapon, however, is its projectile. You know, that's something that I'm sure a lot of people don't like. Me personally, I'm just definitely not a fan. It really doesn't feel good to use, and you guys will definitely see that in the actual gameplay whenever we're like, you know, panicking in a huge fight against all these husks. You guys would definitely notice that a lot more than just casually walking around and shooting things. It just doesn't really feel that good. But this weapon does have very impressive damage, so if you guys really don't mind the projectiles, and you also don't have a Revolt or a Whisper 45, I would definitely recommend picking it up. We're going to go ahead and trap these down and kind of open up this area, and then I will get right back to you guys with some actual gameplay. So I'll see you guys then. Alrighty boyos, so here we are in the actual mission. So yes, we are in a Cat 3, and unfortunately it is not a 4x mission because there were no 4x missions going on right now with fire. So unfortunately I did have to go with just a normal Cat 3 level 100, so we can't exactly get some crazy gameplay. Unfortunately, like I said, you know, I always try to get these gameplays out as fast as I can to you guys to inform you guys on these weapons whenever they are hot and when they are new. And yeah, so I am trying my best. Hopefully we can get a few smashers maybe to spawn here. I'm not entirely sure. It's looking like very light waves, unfortunately, that really there's just whoops really there's just not much going on. We got a few mist monsters coming in through here, which we can do a little bit of damage to. You know, as we can see that the piercing is working as intended. Obviously, that's what's really good about the trap tunnels, is that the piercing is actually pretty decent. But the overall gunplay, this is something I really wanted to touch on this weapon. The overall gunplay of this weapon doesn't exactly feel the best. Whenever you're out here, like, okay, say these husks out here spawn pretty far away, right? And you got to kind of lead your shots, and you kind of, I don't know, it's just really uncomfortable, I guess you could say, to have to go out of your way to hit these shots. It's really just inconvenient and not that great. You know, this weapon performs very well whenever, you know, you sit it under its like certain circumstances where, you know, just how we had earlier, you know, those guys were sitting in you know, they were sitting inside of their trap tunnels, and it was getting pretty easy just to kill multiple, you know, with the same bullet and blah blah blah. And then you have husks where they spawn on different areas, and it just makes it a lot more difficult, unfortunately. And I don't know why, you know, Epic Games keeps doing these projectile based weapons. You know, I get it, you make it projectile based because it can pierce through enemies, right? But that kind of doesn't really hold up much. You know, you look at weapons like the Dragon's Roar, and the Dragon's Roar will pierce through enemies, and it's fire, and it doesn't have any projectiles whatsoever. And I can kind of see where Epic is trying to balance the weapon in that sense. But like, okay, for the healing weapons, for example, right? The healing weapons are physical only. The Candy Corn LMG and the Ginger Blaster are limited on their element because they can heal. But with this weapon, it seems like the only reason it's projectile is because of the piercing, but it doesn't make any sense because the Dragon's Roar goes directly against that. I'm not entirely sure why they introduce weapons like this. You know, it's really good. Like I said, I'm not just going to dog on the weapon the entire time because of projectiles. The projectiles are just fine whenever they are in a trap tunnel. And unlike the Ghost Pistol, this weapon will actually do damage. And that was a main gripe of mine with the Ghost Pistol and a lot of people, is that, yeah, it pierces through enemies, but the weapon itself is just really bad. This weapon is an entirely different animal. It's actually going to do damage whenever you hit an enemy with it. It's just a sake of, like, right here, you're desperately trying to hit them from long range, and it just kind of defeats the purpose of even having a long range weapon like this pistol, when there's just really no reason to use it at long range. You know, you're playing a 4x mission, you actually have fire, you know, your appropriate element with this weapon, and you have some great trap tunnels, then yeah, I can see this weapon performing quite well. But outside of that, not exactly. I'd say with this weapon, you're best off using it with a ranger. And the reason I say that, you know, yeah, you're best off using any pistol with a ranger, but in this particular case, it is a specific kind of use. So you might as well go ahead and use it on a ranger, because all of your other weapons are going to be pistols as well. Say you're using an urban assault, or you're just using like a normal soldier, right? You have no reason to use this weapon as a weapon in your loadout, just because you're not getting it buffed at all. It's already at a disadvantage because of the projectiles. You're not going to be critting as much because of that. So like, you might as well make sure that when you do hit your shots, that you're actually hitting them quite effectively. And that's kind of my main gripe with this weapon. The Ginger Blaster, for example, is a weapon that you can use on any class whatsoever, and it's going to do its job. It is going to kill mist monsters very quickly, and it does a great job of it. This weapon, it does an okay job whenever it comes to wave clear, but it has to be under specific circumstances. One thing I like about the Founder's Revolt is that it doesn't. You can use the Founder's Revolt in any circumstance. In this circumstance right here, I could have already cleared this wave out had my gun not have projectiles and had it not, you know, have to be piercing. You know, if it chained to other enemies, I could have cleared that area out a lot quicker, you know, if I weren't using this weapon. But the Founder's Revolt just might not be as effective if you're using it in a trap tunnel compared to this weapon. So I think this weapon, you know, it has a lot of potential. It needs to be used properly. And unfortunately, in today's video, I wasn't able to get the greatest of all gameplays, but I was able to show you guys some examples and show you guys some time to kill in this gameplay. And you know, I really do wish, guys, I really do wish I could have gotten a proper gameplay in terms of, you know, a 4x mission, but I really do feel like this gameplay will do this weapon justice, in the sense that you're actually going to be able to see how it works in different scenarios. You guys saw how well it worked whenever the husks were funneled into one area. You guys are seeing how it works whenever they're out in the open. You guys got to see how it worked against mist monsters, and you know, I know I threw a smasher clip in there for those of you guys that were curious, because you know, we're not seeing any smashes right now. And you know, this weapon just overall, you know, if I had to give it a, you know, something out of 10, the fact that I can't use it in every situation really bothers me, and I think personally I want to give this weapon, say, a 6.5. Say I'm playing a ranger 100% of the time, and you know, this is an honest rating, I'd probably give this weapon a 8 to an 8.5 if the only class I played was Ranger, because this weapon does exactly what it's supposed to do. But if I'm playing, you know, a soldier and I need to have a pistol, I'm never going to use this weapon. It is going to be the Rat-a-tat, it's going to be the Bald Eagle, it's going to be, you know, the Ginger Blaster, it's going to be all these different weapons. As a soldier, I will never implement this into my loadout, and I will only do it for my ranger because of how situational it is, and I might as well get the bonuses while I'm also playing ranger to, you know, help this weapon along in its weak spot. So guys, let me know what you guys thought about this weapon in the comments down below. I really do want to hear from you guys because I don't know if I'm in the minority, I don't know if I'm in the majority, but I do want to hear your guys' comments in the comments down below. This weapon for me is pretty mediocre overall, but if you are playing ranger, then I can actually see this weapon being a part of a few people's loadouts. But as for me, I mainly play outlander and I mainly play soldier, and whenever I say outlander, I don't mean a pistol based outlander. So yeah, really not going to be on my radar. The Ginger Blaster is always really going to be a permanent addition to my arsenal. This weapon right here, I never ever see myself using this in the future whenever it comes to any other class other than ranger. So guys, I do want to hear your opinions in the comments down below. I'm sorry that this video was so long. I wanted to get a lot of information out there, and I wanted to showcase this weapon under a few different circumstances and kind of just show a little bit of everything that I could for today. So yeah guys, I hope you guys did enjoy. I tried to get this video out as quick as I could right after the stream. This should be going up around 7 in the morning the next day, so I hope you guys did enjoy. But guys, that's pretty much it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.